Or, you know, we're going past the elected officials for our county. Oh, we're going, to me, we're usurping their authority. To me, it's saying that this should be submitted to them and let them submit it to the legislature.
So you gotta come back.
If you look at it, it says the governing body is Spalding County.
Good morning. Well, we can present it to them, but from what I read in the amendment, we have the authority to make any kind of request.
We make a request, yes, but can we go direct from us to state rather than going to, request going to county and then make it to state?
And one of the reasons I think, from my thinking about it, is we said at one of the earlier meetings that we wanted to establish greater independence from the county.
Okay.
Put a little more distance between us, and that's a way to start.
But you
Just wanted to make
can't
sure.
do it without it
Yes, you don't.
being another step.
Good morning, sir.
I don't know, that's a legal question. Good, how are you? I don't know. It's something
That's my thing, that's what, and as I read,
One more.
before that meeting, before you bow, I read
I
that,
have just one more.
and then I reread it this week. And, I would think if we were to get a legal challenge and saying that we have not, I think it wouldn't stand.
Well, ask Stephanie when we discuss it, if that's.
She's on for
Yes.
2 weeks. Oh, yeah, but she's not coming
I'm
back
not
until,
I don't have the legal,
21st.
that's from the labor standpoint.
I understand,
She's not, we're not against it. It's just a matter of.
and I don't know that we need their approval.
Yeah,
so I just
absolutely.
maybe we just want to give them a heads up.
That it needs to come from them, but because they are, until this document is changed, they are.
The call started.
The legal, whatever.
Oh, yeah. The call started a little early this morning.
Well, it hadn't been changed since '93, is it?
Hey, man, how you doing?
There's nothing.
No, that was not presented to
Going
the
on?
county, I don't think before, for the
Good.
other meetings. I think they went straight. I don't know, that's why, I don't know the history of it.
I don't either, but I would see that, well, I just don't see
I think I got
setting
another
up a
pair in
legal
the truck
challenge.
if you need them.
Okay.
I got them in my pocket.
Okay.
I got them in my pocket.
I'll go see if I can.
Back there.
It's not like you know you're doing the
No, I
plan.
can't prepare.
You're doing the plan.
Good morning.
Amy just raised a question on the proposed changes to the amendment. Is that something that should go by the county commissioners?
It doesn't have to go by anybody. I mean, it can. But they didn't create us. Our legislative delegation created us. We have to ask the legislative
The
delegation.
legal organ that's referred to in the amendment itself is not the county commissioners, it's the legislature.
No, a legal organ is the newspaper. Yeah, if you ever.
But the legal body that has to make the changes, not our.
No, it is the state legislature. Yeah. Hi, Mr. Steve. How are you?
I want to talk to her again.
She said that it
No,
does not
this
have to
time you
go
can talk
through
to
the county commission, that we were
fellow by the
created
name of
directly
Chris
by the state
Wood,
legislature.
who is probably met him. He runs
Therefore, they are the ones that have the authority to make any change.
and he's probably spoken to Rotary. He came up to me and he said,
But we can always show it to them and tell them this is our plan.
Yeah, right, because I still,
it's like, oh my God, this is horrible.
I'm still concerned.
Why are you doing
Okay.
this?
Well, this is slim crowd.
where's everybody?
Maybe the city
She
lost
is,
interest.
No, she's not here.
Yeah, nobody's up there.
Yeah, so
Okay, the microphones are live and we are streaming.
she's not here, Glenn's not here, and Dick.
Where's Dick?
Probably will be. Well, yeah, but
everybody's in their seat with shining faces, smiling, uh-huh.
Is Dick gonna be here? Is Dick gonna be here? Okay.
I have no knowledge that he's not going to be here.
Dick.
Oh, Wanda's not here either.
No, she didn't. Oh, no, that's hers.
Can you admit Dick?
Oh, okay. Especially got up by herself.
Okay, Gwen is on Zoom. Good morning, Miss Gwen.
Gwen, can you hear us?
Hello, I can hear you guys.
Okay, good, thank you.
She must be out of town.
Thank you for doing this, when you're out and about.
No problem.
All right, here we go. Welcome to the Spalding County Water and Sewerage Facilities Authority. It is June 15th, 2022 at 8:30 in the morning. I'd request that everyone please silence your cell phones and all other electronic devices. At this time, I'd like to ask Ms. Fanny Delaney to lead us in the invocation, followed by Ms. Cheryl Matlock to lead us in the pledge to the flag.
May we pray? Our God and Father of mankind, we thank thee for this beautiful day that you've afforded us. We pray that you bless these your servants here assembled so that we may better serve you by serving others here on earth. Lead, guide, and direct all that we say and do here today, I pray. Help us to make this little corner of our world a better place in which to live. Lest we be selfish, dear Lord, we ask that you will heal our land, our nation, our world. Help us that we might be instruments to make this so. I ask that now that when we would have finished with this setting, you would dismiss us from this place, but not from thy presence. In thy Son Jesus' name I pray, amen.
If you will join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, ladies. I'd like to request a motion to amend the agenda to move item 12, special committee report, after item 7, financial report. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
All right, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Unanimous, thank you. Quinn, you raised your hand, didn't you? Quinn's joining us. Quinn, did you hear us? Did you raise your hand?
She's muted.
I'm muting her now, I don't know how she got muted.
Okay.
Clay, do we have any copies of the agenda?
Here's one.
Or copies?
I picked up two.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't know you had one. I
Stay
didn't get
there.
one
You can't
email either. Boy,
You can't.
Okay.
She's muted herself.
Oh, okay.
Does everybody have an agenda? Does anybody need them? General manager's got it? Okay.
You got one?
Item number, now do I have a motion to approve the amended agenda?
So moved.
I
Second,
have a motion, do I have a second?
second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. 8? All right, item number 5.
There's no one who has signed up, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I will skip reading the citizen comments. Item number 6, request approval for the minutes of the May 18th, 2022 regular scheduled meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
Mr. Chair, I move that the motion, the minutes be approved as presented.
Second?
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. 8, thank you.
That was for the first one, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
May 18th.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the minutes for the second meeting then.
All right, I have a motion to approve the minutes for the planning minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. 8. Thank you. Request approval for the financial statement as presented by the general manager. Johnson? Present please, and then we'll approve.
So the financial statement you're looking at is for, through the end of May. Our total customers have increased to 15,178. The percent residential versus everything else, we're still 95, 99% residential. Our consumption is tracking at a total of 731 million gallons sold to date as of May 30th. So projecting out what the end of the year looks like, it appears, based off the last 3 years of data, that we're going to end up between 0.1 and 0.2% over on consumption. So we've sold more than we budgeted, and our revenues will be approximately between 1 to 2% over what we projected on water sales.
Mr. Chairman, I predict with this heat this summer, we're gonna do better than that.
Correct. And to piggyback on what Mr. Morrow said, I'm trying to draw a correlation between the water sales and the temperature so we can have a better understanding of what that looks like.
Okay. Any questions for the general manager on the financials?
I move we accept.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All right, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. 8, thank you. All right, this is where we now bring in item number 12, other business. Item number 1, update from the general manager on a number of topics. Joseph?
I'm sorry, where'd you put the committee reports? Did we not
After number
approve the
7
agenda?
was what it was asked for on the agenda. After number 7,
After number 7, okay, I missed that, thank you.
That's where we are now, correct?
that's correct.
Yes, so we went down to item number 12, and we're getting ready to get through the whole thing. All right?
All right, you want us to committee report then?
I think Joseph's got plant 1 outfall. Is that where we are?
No.
Well,
Get his committee report.
I apologize for my confusion, I couldn't hear exactly, but I thought next would be the committee reports.
No, the other business is 11. So 12 is the committee updates.
It is.
So that'll be Dick and Cheryl.
Okay.
Last page.
Okay.
Last page.
Okay. All right, this is Dick, you.
Okay, I'll grab the planning and finance joint committee, and I think Cheryl's got the bylaws. We had a really interesting meeting on the planning, our joint meeting with the finance committee. But unfortunately, Joseph has found another mess. He seems to uncover issues regularly. I'm sitting by firing him, he keeps finding more problems. But we have a design and construction requirements manual for installing our water lines. And Joseph, in his review, discovered that it has not been changed, updated in any way. Well, anything's happened to it since 2006. So this is a hugely out-of-date document. And what this means is somebody puts in a water line in our system, a contractor or anyone, if they actually followed the 2006 guidelines, they'd be way out of date already. Plus, there's materials specified there no longer used, and it's an issue. And also, there's been a lack of inspection on some of them. So even if they followed the rules, which are out of date, and weren't inspected, we might get whatever. And then we're stuck with whatever they put in the ground to maintain, and it's an incredible problem in my opinion. So Joseph wants to begin updating the design manual slowly and bring it into today's world, and also wants to start enforcing it so that we don't get stuck with inferior materials or installation. So we had quite a robust discussion about that, and he can fill on any more later when we discuss it. We talked about the two employee needs. One of them now is that Mr. Granger has already tendered his resignation, so he is, maybe desperate's a strong word, but I'd say he's desperate for employees very quickly because he's losing one at the end of the month, and we've got to find him some help. And we approved the two positions, and Cheryl took our advisement for the budget implications. And we reviewed the fire hydrant funding, and we're working on, I think it's probably done by now, the official policy in written form. So we have approved the idea, but not official. And we're going to start meeting on the planning committee the second Wednesday, the middle Wednesday, if you will, the second Wednesday after the our general meeting, so that Cheryl and the finance committee can meet the third Wednesday and go over any impact that the planning committee might have on the budget. So those will be formal meeting times now on those Wednesdays. And I will say on the planning committee, as far as I'm concerned, everybody's welcome to come and join in if you want to, because we got some pretty big ground to cover, and we'd use all the ideas that we can find. So.
And I encourage you, everybody, to jump in those topics, especially if you hear what one of them's gonna be, that you have some definite interest in, to be able to go and sit through the second meeting after, follow this meeting and go on into that meeting. And that's the heart and soul of what I see as these committees, to be able to almost do workshop stuff, pull together, work through the issues, talk through the specifics of them, get them worked out, then turn around and bring them back to us so that we can move through them pretty quickly.
And we have in the meeting today, these things I talked about on the formal basis, so I defer to Cheryl now to continue on here.
Ms. Matlock?
Well, first, let me just add that the two positions that we approved were water distribution system supervisor, probable salary between $65,000 and $75,000, and utility construction coordinator between $55,000 and $65,000. As for the bylaws, you have before you 3 proposals that we would like to present to the legislature to amend our creation amendment. First of all, we would like to ask that the duly appointed members of the authority be limited to serving 2 consecutive terms. That's 12 years. If somebody really wants to do a 3rd term, they take a year off and then could be reappointed. The second proposal was to provide that the county commissioners will appoint, they already do, but with our recommendation. And then the final one was to allow for compensation to be set by the authority. As it says now, we receive no compensation. And some people have to take time off work, some people have to drive further. We're meeting, if you're on a committee, you're meeting more than once a month. Used to, you met once every 3 months, now you're meeting 3 times every month. So there's a big difference there in the consumption of gas and oil and time. And we felt like this should be something that the authority would have the right to set as compensation for its membership. So I present those 3 proposed changes. Stephanie has written a proposed resolution. It would be presented to Karen and to David to be further handled in the legislature. So I'll leave it open for discussion. Does anybody have any questions?
This is the time for thoughts about this. This is a pretty big, these are 3 pretty significant changes.
Well,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Gwen?
are we taking discussion on this?
Yes, yes, this is the time.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to say that I'm kind of appalled. Appalled that the suggestion would be that the water authority members need to, hold on a second. Okay, that there's a suggestion that water authority members need to be, financially accommodated for coming to the meeting. I mean, we just need to figure out our schedule better. There's no reason for us to have one person going to 3 meetings and this is volunteer. I mean, people on all other authorities meet and they're not financially accommodated. I don't think that we're any different. And then the second thing is, I'm concerned because I don't think it's the authority's place to make a recommendation to the board of commissioners. And I say that because after 20 years of experience with serving on each board, what happens is the authority wants to put whoever they want to put, whether that's their friend, their business partner, their son. The recommendation does not need to come from the water authority because it can be too subjective. And you'll end up building an authority that's a clique. So I totally am opposed to that. The other thing that I have concerns about is how the committee, the planning committee, was able to come up with the recommendation to hire 2 additional people where there's no documentation to show that it's justified. My understanding was that when we hired our manager, and we agreed that we were hiring him because of his skill set and engineering that he brought to the table. Not that he needed to be an engineer, but that was the plus that he was bringing to the table. So it's only been 5 months, 6 months. We don't have any documentation that shows us that our work flows as it's free. We don't have any documentation that shows us that because our manager has been working for us, he has been able to take on engineering projects that we could have only had to take care of someone else. I need to see numbers that justify that. And then the other thing about that is that as an authority, we don't have a strategic plan. So how can we decide that we need to hire more personnel when we don't even know which way we're going? So I think that is very preemptive and asking for someone, and I want to know how it's affected financially. I think we're hiring somebody. And what is it that the manager has right now that is going to keep them from doing their right? Because that's why we hired him. Because we just hired a superintendent. If we just needed somebody to do stuff, Rocky did. So I think that while the recommendation was made, I think it was early, it's early. I want to be able to see that, that there is a real need. And so far, I don't see where we have justified a real need. Especially without having a strategic plan to tell us that we're going a certain way and that's what we need. I think there just needs to be more conversation with the entire board. And I appreciate the work that the planning committee did, but, you know, in the long run, looking at what it's gonna cost us to do that, but what we're really gonna get, we don't even really know what that means. So, and I'm not trying to say that our manager's trying to build an organization, but we're totally missing the point, is that this is why we hired him, this is why we agreed to pay the salary that he wanted, was because he was gonna be able to perform the local duties.
Mr. Chairman, may I address a couple of those things?
Yes, Dick?
I defer to Cheryl's opinion on the bylaws, except I will say I agree with her changes, but there's nothing says that the authority has to institute any remuneration for members, but it would allow the possibility if it
Right.
happens. So I think the board ought to have that authority whether they use it or not. But I'll say this about the positions. I could not disagree more. I respect one's opinion, but he has employees that are leaving, and we're replacing those employees, but they're updated job titles and responsibilities. And anybody who sat in the planning meetings along understands that the help that he has is insufficient to do the job. It's been well documented in our meetings and discussions with Joseph about the help he needs, and these two positions are not truly new positions. They replace a lot of what's being done and personnel that's leaving. So we're either gonna get him the personnel or or not be able to do these jobs. When I say leaving, he does have people leaving, need somebody. But we are not doing the job to maintain our water system and oversee what's going in and enforce our rules at all without this help. So I think it's well documented if you sit there in these meetings and listen to Joseph. So we can decide, y'all decide what you do, we do or don't.
All right, now, we're talking, excuse me, Ms. Fanning?
Mr. Chair, I would like to go back to the bylaws portion of this report. You might have noticed that, and maybe I didn't enumerate enough when we were voting in the committee meeting. Or you noticed that I voted no on most of those. However, it was not against the bylaws themselves, but the method by which they were going to be presented. My objection was that we were going a step above, or what I thought we should. When I read the amendments, it was seemed that since we have a governing body, which is our Spalding County Board of Commissioners, I could not see our usurping their authority by going above them to the director of the state legislature. And as I looked at, and perhaps I am incorrect, but when I looked at the 82 document and the 93 document, it was saying that the Spalding County was the governing authority. So if that is the case, that's the authority that has been elected by the people. And I see that if we go direct to the legislature, we're taking away some authority from the people. That is my objection.
May I ask our attorney to comment on the legal document that creates us?
Yes, the legal document that creates us is local legislation, which must be introduced by our local legislative delegation, that being our representatives and senator. The only way that we can amend that local legislation is through additional local legislation, which must come from our legislative delegation. It doesn't come from the Board of Commissioners. There are times when the Board of Commissioners may want our local legislative delegation to make changes, and they will make that request. And that has happened in the past. It has happened that individual citizens have made requests to our local legislative delegation. An example of that is in the school tax exemption based on age. That recommendation came directly from citizens, and our local legislative delegation did that without consultation with the Board of Commissioners or the school board. It can happen based on their own initiative, which is what happened with House Bill 706, which changed the makeup of our Board of Elections. The the Board of Commissioners is not the body that makes the changes to the document that formed this authority. It has to be our local legislative delegation introducing legislation, which then has to be passed by both the Georgia House and Senate and signed by the governor. Typically.
We can't go to the Board of Commissioners and change any of this. They have no legal authority.
That's right.
And we don't require their permission to request a change.
You are an authority created by legislation. You do not have to have Board of Commissioners permission to act.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so let's.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
Mr. Chairman.
yes, Ms. Green.
Okay, so my question would then be, and the reference that she made, in terms of being able to contact your legislator, that was a political decision that was made by the Board of Elections. I know that you say that, you may agree that it's not, but it exactly was. And I do know that, you know, anytime anything is changed in terms of the legislation, it does need to be changed by the legislature. So my question to this board is that a high priority for us to make us worry about how long someone served? Has that been a problem for us in the state that we're in now? Or we're getting into the weeds about stuff that really doesn't help us move forward as a water authority, I think. I'm not saying that any of these ideas are bad. I think they're not being done in the right order. And, you know, pushing forward with changing the bylaws now, you know, it's foreign to me that we feel like this board, members of this board, feels like we need to be compensated for volunteering. Because, you know, we really don't have time to do it, and you probably need it not to be on board.
May I?
All right, Ms. Cheryl?
The compensation can be set at $20, but if you read this existing amendment, it says, "The members of the authority shall not be entitled to any compensation for their services." So, not even $20. Therefore, I thought that was probably something that should be addressed so that we are in line with our amendment.
So our $20 you're saying is actually illegal.
That was, you can be reimbursed for actual expenses necessarily incurred in the performance of duties. In my opinion, that would be like turning in your mileage or something along those lines. So the point of that was just to make it legal. The second thing is, in asking that the county consider our recommendations for appointment, I saw it exactly the opposite of the way Ms. Flowers is seeing it. In my opinion, this board knows its needs. Do we need somebody with greater financial expertise? Do we need somebody with more knowledge about water? Do we need somebody that has greater organizational skills? We know those needs because we're sitting in these meetings on a regular basis. Therefore, it was my thought that it should give us an opportunity, we should be given an opportunity to have input into who is appointed to these seats. And those were the grounds on which I made my personal decision.
My personal decision, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, my personal experience with the Development Authority 20 years ago, 25 years ago, when I sat on that board was full of old white men. It was full of old white men who were friends with each other, who were in business with each other. There was no diversity, there were no women, there were no people of color on the board. And that was because the Development Authority made recommendations for who they wanted to put on the board. And
that same politics happens on the Board of Commissioners, so it happens everywhere, so. Mr. Chairman, I recommend we move to new business where we really discuss this, and then we'll decide the will of the majority.
Okay, any other questions anybody's got on, one of either of those two topics, which is really and truly a number of recommendations from the planning, and from the, finance committee? This is, I don't wanna get back into a whole big discussion again on it, okay?
When there's an opening on the boards at Spalding County, is there a big mad pile rush of applications?
No.
No. There's, the most I've ever think I've seen is, four for one position to go on to a board. We have a number of, positions that 0 people have, applied for.
And what is the process by which the board appoints these people?
And how and here's the basic process, and I've got, a number of experts here to be able to, say, what he really meant to say was, we put out, boards are for the most part, selected in the January timeframe. First meeting we have, we put out ahead of time and say, we're looking for, we have vacancies coming up on these positions to be able to do it. We put that out to the community, to commissioners to put out to the community to be able to do it. People send their nominations, they fill out a nomination packet, send it in to the county clerk. County clerk gets it, the commissioners sign off on it. And this is how we were picked to do this ourselves. County commissioners sign off, and it is put in a book. The date it is put, the date it is signed is the critical date. The book says, all right, we need one position for the water authority. When we get ready to vote for the water authority, the book is opened by the manager and says there's one position or 4 positions, whichever is in there. And we vote on the positions by the date that they're in the book. Lots of discussion about that. And the first person in there that gets 3 votes is selected. And then it's over with. So if you're the 4th person in the book, it may never get to you to be able to do it. Is it the best system in the world? Is it set up for the best skill set to move to the top and everything else? It's not set up that way. It's set up chronologically to be able to vote through to be able to do it. Jeff?
So, Mr. Chairman, are there any qualifications for those people that are in the book? Is there any vetting of their background as far as whether or not they would be good for this position on whatever board it is, or
Not really.
is it just the first person in the book?
The short answer was not really. The commissioner that signs off is supposed to be vetting that person and saying, hey, I know, I've looked at the qualifications, and to the rest of the commissioners, I'm signing off as being responsible for that.
And it's a lot of political pull and friendships and other things too, like any other appointment position.
So it doesn't sound like there's a whole lot of discussion about these applicants, whether it's for this board or any other, prior to making that decision.
Most of the commissioners will come through and look at the book with either the county clerk or the county manager to see, all right, I've got 3 people in here in 3 different positions, and we're gonna do 40 positions throughout in January. And they go through and see where theirs is, and then start seeing, okay. And then they get ready to vote.
Theoretically, the commissioners could do the same thing that Gwen was saying these boards could do. They could pick and choose who's gonna be on what board and determine the direction of that board, theoretically.
And the direction, my belief is what the board is supposed to do is find a person or citizens that are willing to volunteer to move our county in a specific direction that they say is the direction we want to go. It shouldn't just simply be, okay, somebody I don't know, I'm just signing off on and doing that. We want the county to go in a very specific direction. The way we get the county to go in that direction is we put citizens on the boards to be able to do it. Planning commission, zoning, appeals, water authority, hospital authority, there's a ton of them that we pick people to go to. And we're supposed to be picking people that we think are moving in the direction we wanna go. So, it's a pretty big onerous task on us to be able to do that. Because if we get a board that's moving in a different direction, it is awful hard for us to get that back into where we're trying to go. If we say we're moving in this direction on the comprehensive plan, and we've got a board over here that, because we put people in it that are not going in the comprehensive plan, it's hard for us to be able to pull those people back in there and get them going in the direction we're trying to go.
What other boards in Spalding County have to self-fund themselves?
Now,
I mean, you're not a board, you're an authority.
Well,
There's
You're-
a big
there's a
difference.
difference.
That's the point that the county attorney is making. There's a huge difference between boards.
And the development authority is, I mean, the county, in most years, the county will supplement, but not always.
Are we the only board/authority in Spalding County that has completely self-fund itself?
Well, you really don't either, given that Joseph is a
But his salary,
County
his salary
employee.
comes from
his salary does come
Water
from your budget.
Authority funds.
Gwen, I couldn't hear you. What'd you say?
Same thing I did.
understand that his funding, Joe actually works as a county employee, doesn't hire the water authority employee.
But
I don't know if there's any other, I don't really think of.
Other than the
any other that
development
makes
authority.
money.
Other
You know,
than the
We have a number
development.
that deal in the money. The airport authority, we're talking about
Right.
big bucks to be able to do stuff with. The development authority, big bucks that they're trying to do stuff with. But I think this is the only one that I know of. The hospital authority has money, and it just takes the interest off the cash it's got to be able to do stuff with.
I agree, this is the only business that's self-supporting. It's a different,
Yeah, we're a little different. Whenever the time comes, I'd like to propose we table this until we have the entire board here to discuss it. But I know we're not at that point. I have one other question about the compensation.
Gwen, he said when the time comes, we haven't got there, thank you.
When the, all expenses incurred, if that's what the legislation says.
Actual expenses incurred.
So is loss of income an actual expense? Or is this like contingent?
No, that would be.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that would be
Get your
like
checkbook.
mileage, and parking, if those,
Not defined in our.
I was just asking, cause that's a, you know, I could run with that for a mile. You know?
Okay, all right. Any other questions about this? I'm trying to just kind of move us on. And let me make sure everybody understands, at least from Clay Davis's perspective, the heart and soul of planning and finance is to kind of work these things, talk about them, get them ready to go, so that the big board comes in, reads, should have some knowledge about them, and we should be able to move forward without a restatement of the entire issue all over again. If you're interested in the bylaws things, you should have come to the bylaws meeting. All right. Are we through, I'm sorry, my agenda's not quite right. Are we through with special committee report?
yes.
Okay. Let's see where we are. Consider.
So do we need to make a recommendation, or are we on a table discussing?
Well, they're covered in new business, so we need to move on to new business
Yes.
and deal with them.
All right. I believe we're at the water superintendent report at this point. Is that where we all are? We agree?
I believe so.
Okay. Water superintendent report. General manager.
The meter sales to date are 131. That's roughly 38% where we should, where we're at on historical trends. We should be at 42, so we're lagging a little bit. One interesting note is builder installs versus homeowner installs. Builders represent 78% of our meter installs, and homeowners represent the remaining 22%. And a little bit,
Glenn, can you go on mute, please?
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, what's up?
Okay, go ahead.
In the meter breakdown, roughly 37% of the meters installed are 3/4, and the remaining 52 are 1-inch. So it's an interesting combination, and from my understanding on questions I ask when someone calls in to get a meter, they say, well, I'll just take a 1-inch meter. Well, just because you want a 1-inch meter, you think bigger's better, it's not necessarily size right, but until we get a process in place to accurately ensure that their needs meet and justify this number, we're just letting them put them in right now,
1-inch meters.
1-inch meters. So the cost difference between a 1-inch meter and a 3/4 is roughly $200. We're not even at the point that I can tell you that those costs are even accurate. So there's a lot of things that we're trying to track where we can start changing the way these installs work, and we may deter people from automatically jumping to a bigger and better mentality.
Joseph, are there any efficiencies, differences in those meters as far as reading low flows for someone that doesn't have that need for a 1-inch?
If you look at the manufacturing data, no. However, industry, when you're actually there and you're operating in the low range,
You get a lower range of a flow meter, it's gonna be less accurate.
absolutely, absolutely. So if you size the meter appropriately, you're gonna be within the sweet spot the majority of the time.
So if you have a typical house, which requires a 3/4 inch line, and you say, oh, I want a 1-inch line, and you're using it at the low level, you might or might not be getting free water, because they're not very accurate.
You may be under registering.
I
You
got
might
a
not be
3/4
capturing
inch
that
meter,
usage.
And there's no reason why.
800 feet of line.
So this is, to Mr. Cannon's point, a meter should be sized for the application. So if you have a house that's really far off the road, you may think that you want a 1-inch meter because you're gonna put a 1-inch line. You can always go a 3/4 inch line, increase it to a 1-inch to lessen the,
Half.
do what?
Mine goes to 1.5 inches, and I got 145 PSI before it hits the pressure reducer.
That's right. So a 1-inch meter, the reason why you would justify that
It's like a pressure
is
washer.
if you wanted to exceed the 20 gallons a minute flow. Well, 20 gallons a minute's a lot, especially with today's water conservation plumbing fixtures. So that, as I told y'all in previous meetings, I'm adding these different metrics in as time allows, and we're starting to get some pretty good information. So what I'm hoping to build on now is to determine exactly why we're lagging in certain areas, and we're gonna start tracking the builders that come in, and we'll be able to tell you who are the percent meter installs per builder that's registered in Spalding County. Flipping to the next page, the total hydrants touched to date is 495, and we've put roughly, I don't know if this is it, are y'all seeing 832,000 gallons on the ground? Okay, yeah, I printed a different one. That includes June.
Second, she's pulling it up.
Water loss, yes, ma'am.
Can you make that a little bit bigger for us?
Yeah, you need to tighten up here, Joseph, I can't read this, man.
Thank you.
Okay, the non-revenue water being tracked by the city of Griffin, we are looking at roughly 14 million gallons to date that has been put on the ground and revenue's not been generated. Now, obviously, there's a bunch of different reasons why that happens, but if you look at the hydrant flushing, we do put a lot on the ground just for dead-end lines and expelling dirt and debris out of the system. So this information, this spreadsheet's getting better. Our communication with the city is getting better by the day.
What's metered unbilled?
Metered unbilled are your, it's fire hydrant meters used for testing purposes,
Oh, okay.
auto flushers at dead-end lines. Hydrant flushing is when you have a main break or you're doing regular routine maintenance on the system and you're just trying to evacuate the debris out of the system, kind of what we're doing with our fire hydrant maintenance.
All right, Joseph, we got 60% is all in, meter unbilled.
Correct.
Is that a reasonable number for us?
I mean, it is, I can work with the city, but a lot of that is, it's gonna vary based on development, based on, a bunch of different metrics. It's hard to say what is an acceptable amount of water on the ground.
Okay, okay.
Can you add a column of cost on here next time?
Yes.
Sure, yes, absolutely.
All right.
And do you want our wholesale cost, or do
Our
you
cost.
want?
Our
Okay,
cost.
okay. All right, and then the fire hydrant maintained? Yes. Okay, yes, we ourselves, the Spalding County Water Authority, has put almost 800,000 gallons on the ground through our exercising and maintenance programs. And to date, we've touched 478 hydrants. The next metric that's gonna be added to this is, after discussing with the fire department and the ISO, one of the ISO requirements is touching the hydrant within a 12-month cycle. Well, we have roughly 3,000, almost 3,100 hydrants. If you do the math, we're not tracking on touching them in a 12-month period. So that's something that we're gonna be discussing at a later meeting.
Okay.
Are there any questions on the meter summary and the water loss? Or non-revenue water? Sorry.
If you just add that column, that cost column.
Sure
that'll
will.
help me out.
You got it.
Mr. Chairman, Joseph,
Yes, ma'am.
yesterday, I came from, the Minerva Road down 155 by the Minerva Development, and I reported to Steve that there was some private contractors out letting water out of one of the hydrants across the street. Are we supposed to, anybody can just go and do that?
Did you notice a meter attached to the fire hydrant?
No, I just saw water shooting up in the air, and then when I drove by, trying to see what kind of truck it was that was doing it, 'cause I thought maybe it was us flushing the line, but it was some private contractor.
So,
I mean, do we know when they're doing that?
we should be made aware of them doing it. If, I know Tim Granger has been trying to stop in and check on that contractor, but he's being pulled off in other directions on his daily tasks.
Joseph, as an aside, I actually physically drove up there myself, and there was a green meter attached to the hydrant, so.
Then it's good.
It was being metered, Ms. Gwen.
Okay, so when you're saying that, that means that who's gonna pay for that water that they're putting out?
So, per the contract, that water, if it's for testing purposes, it's not charged for. But if they're using it for construction purposes to, say, mix up concrete on site, they rented that meter through the city of Griffin, and they will pay the city of Griffin for that water.
So is that city of Griffin out at that point? But I thought that was our hydrant stuff out there.
It is our hydrants, but they're renting the meter through the city of Griffin, and the city of Griffin is charging them, I don't think they're getting charged our rate, are they, Brandon? No, I believe they're being charged city of Griffin rates.
Okay, so are we being reimbursed by the city of Griffin for that water?
They're not charging us for that water. So there would be no reimbursement.
Okay.
It's never gone through one of our meters.
Correct, yes. It's going through their meter that they registered with the city of Griffin. So the city of Griffin's handling everything. The Spalding County Water Authority does not receive any.
Right, so we don't actually have anything to do with that. That's strictly between them, even though it's in a
Yes, ma'am, correct.
Okay. All right, sorry, go ahead.
All right. Is that all your,
Yes, sir.
okay, up on that report? Okay, item number 9, old business, there is none.
Can-
I-
Did you want to consider the approval of the water
Oh, yes.
superintendent report?
Yes, can I have a motion to approve the water superintendent's report?
I so move.
All right, I have a motion and a second.
Second.
Thank you. Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. 7. Dick is out of the room. And 1 is not here. All right. Item number 10, new business. Consider approval of the job description and funding for 2 new water authority positions. I heard a motion earlier from Ms. Gwynn to table this action.
No, it's from Wade.
I'm sorry,
Wade.
from Wade.
We didn't really talk
Thought
about
that was the
He-
bylaw.
He
thing.
couldn't, that was the bylaw, but he couldn't actually make a motion at
All right,
that point
Ms. Gwynn,
anyway.
did you make a motion to table the 2 new positions?
Yes, I did.
All right.
She
I
would
a
have to
motion.
make that motion again, not in the past.
Would you make are you making that motion now?
We'll be happy to, Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion for us to, table the new positions until we have more information that the entire board is, able to be updated on everything that has to do.
All right, I have a motion to table. Do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those, there's no discussion on tabling.
Okay,
I had a question I wanted to ask.
it's dangerous.
Yes, just no discussion on
I got you,
tabling.
man.
All right. Although that's why I tried to get you to make sure everybody was asking questions earlier. All right. All those in favor of tabling this action until we have more information, please raise your hand. I'll count Ms. Quinn, that's 3. All those opposed, like sign. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. All right, that motion does not carry.
I'd like to make a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I will say that Mr. Joseph can explain why he needs these people and why now, if people want to listen to him. I'm sorry, Wade, that it cut you off, I didn't mean to.
Well, that's basically, somebody
You
was just turning
didn't
their.
table it, so if someone wants to make a motion to approve and then second and discuss.
Then we'll have a discussion. All right, do I have a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we do approve these 2 new positions.
All right, I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? All right, and you can second for discussion and then vote down later on, okay? Discussion. General Manager?
Yeah, so the reason why these 2 positions have been requested is because after looking at our current workforce, there are some huge gaps in the system. One of the plan review functions that was being done is now falling under, I have no problem doing plan review. The thing that I'm having a problem with is juggling all these different meetings that I'm going to, plus the plan review, plus the pre-construction conference, plus meeting, going out to the shop to make sure inventory's being done, working on spreadsheets to track work orders, because we have no work order system. So looking at just the litany of things that that we're responsible for, we don't have the current staff required to inspect all the water lines that are being put in. We don't even have the know-how to do a fire flow test. We don't have the equipment. The people that are maintaining hydrants haven't actually been trained on how to tear a hydrant apart. So this is looking at the responsibilities of the authority. We're not even doing our basic responsibilities now with the staff that we have. We have people that are looking at retiring within the next 18 months. Well, One of them is retiring as of July 6th. So as of July 6th right now, we do not have anybody that can run a piece of equipment to install water taps. So I'm soliciting quotes from contractors to fill this gap, and it's gonna cost more money. So there's two options that we can do when they facilitate this tap. Do we provide the material, or do we lump it into their price? Well, if we provide the material now, are we gonna give them a roll of copper? Or are we gonna say you're gonna get 50-foot links? Are we gonna be out there while they're installing this? Are we gonna check the tap? Are we gonna make sure they get the coupon pulled? These are all real world consequences of not having adequate staff to do our job. So when water lines are put in and they put a gauge on it to pressure test it, we don't sit there and watch that gauge. They call us after 2 hours and say, hey, the pressure gauge held. Well, how do we know they didn't go in between and pump it back up? We don't, because we're doing other stuff at the same time we're doing this. So that was the reason why I was looking at hiring these positions, because they were gonna wear multiple hats. Yes, ma'am.
So Joseph, are you saying that we weren't doing these things at all in the past?
If we were doing it, we were doing it very sporadically. We were taking the contractor's word a lot of the time and using these relationships and assuming everything was being put in as designed.
So there is no strategic plan that we have that says if we've not been doing it at all, that out of 3,100 meters, we can project that we'll do 500 or 800 as opposed to the 400 we're doing now, supposedly, that we don't have someone doing. This is what I was asking for. How was this being done before? And I think a list of the things that you are saying haven't been done are important. And what were the results of that? Were the results of that we lost money? Was the result of that we got fined by UPD? Those are my questions in asking about these positions, because it sounds like to me that you're saying we need an inspector, but you're also saying that we need someone to plan. I mean, I don't know that there is such a thing as a senior planner in a water authority, but yeah, without you coming to us and saying, this is the thing that we are supposed to be doing. This is how we've done it in the past. This is what we need to be doing. It would be much easier for me to look at this and say, well, yeah, if we're gonna try and double or triple the number of hydrants that we inspect every year, then I can see that. And then there's something measurable for us to see on the other end. But, has it hurt us that we're not doing it? There's some conjecture I hear you're saying about it, but I'm just trying to understand who's been doing this in the past. And the person that we have that's been doing it, which you say they're leaving this July, what was their skill set? And maybe a person could inspect 1,000 meters a year, and maybe that person just wasn't doing a good job. So I'm just concerned about us jumping in without data to support that. For in your case, if we had gone to Paragon, some of the things that you've been doing for us, if we would have had a contract, there would be a dollar number associated with that. Do you understand what I'm saying? And having been here for 6 months, I'm just, a little lost at how you figure that we're going to need to new personnel to do what. Because, obviously in the past, we haven't really been thinking about the stuff that you're saying we're not doing. And I'm not saying that we don't need to do it. I'm just saying, how do we justify it?
Mr. Chairman, may I say this? We've been sitting through these planning meetings, and every time Joseph has told us the problems he keeps finding, the leaks, the inferior materials, on and on and on, lack of whatever. And he is, to my opinion, documented this very well. He's losing his one employee who can even do some of this stuff. He's updated the job description. He's running 7 different ways at one time with no help. And if we're going to take this authority and our water system to a professional level, we've got to bite this bullet and get the proper trained and placed people. This he's discovered all these problems, like the lack of any updated requirements for installation, anything. So it has been run, I hate to say sort of slipshod, but that's the best word I can come up with. And he's taken this to a new level. We have to, in my opinion, respect our engineer and give him the help he needs and do this right, or we go back to what we had, so.
Ms. Cheryl?
Yes. Dick was talking earlier and Joseph about having to upgrade our requirements from, they were 2006.
Nobody's touched it.
That will make it even more important that we have somebody ready and able to go out and inspect, will it not?
Yes.
Well-
And we either respect our engineer and what he needs to get this job done, or we don't. That's kind of the way I'm sitting.
Ms. Delaney?
I just have one question, if I may ask Joseph. Joseph, the things that you're proposing to us, I just have one question. The things that since you have been here as an engineer, you have found that these things are needed and this is where we need to go. This is where we need to take us forward and to be more professional and more cost effective in what we're gonna be doing in the future.
Yes, ma'am, and the reason why is, while there's no EPD fines right now on the books, there's no telling what liabilities we've opened ourselves up to for when a water system is put in and tested, that water system now becomes ours. It becomes part of our asset. Well, right now, there's no, there's a bond period and there's a warranty period. Well, I can't tell you in 5 years, we're not gonna have massive leaks in the system because it took that long for it to finally break down and that joint to slip. The Jackson Road, Kennedy Road, intersection improvement where we had to reline that casing, that was because that line had been in for years. Well, it took that long for the leak finally to split the bell and the leak came to fruition.
How much that cost us?
That was $27,000.
After we get a contractor turns a water system over to us, it's usually already underground and covered up, right?
Absolutely it is.
So our only chance to inspect it is while
When-
it's under construction.
That's correct.
The billing discrepancies that we talked about several months ago, I believe the volume of water totaled up to about $4 million over 25 years. Has that panned out?
We're actively working with the city to get final numbers.
Okay, but am I reasonably close
You
this
don't
month?
have the damage.
Well, the data from the standpoint of EPD fines, no, but I'll give you this point. We were in a plan review, a preliminary plat review meeting a couple of weeks ago with a consultant. The consultant brought the plans to the table that had been pre-approved more than 12 months ago. I asked where his new updated flow test is. He said, what flow test? You never required it on the last one. Well, the plans as they're coming in were never being held to the standard that we required them to be. So when a development comes in and a Sun City Peachtree, the designer is supposed to provide us basically a hydraulic model showing the worst case hydrant and the fire flow capable at that hydrant. Well, with us not knowing what it is, we're assuming that it meets the fire requirement.
It's gonna put a fire out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm just trying to steer the ship in in the direction that we should have been going long before I ever got here.
And one of these people is leaving on July 6th.
July 6th is his last day, correct?
There's a difference.
What is his job title?
His job title was Senior Utility Tech, so that is a separate issue than these two positions. These two positions will be more of a inspection, utility, plan review, asset management, and then the other one, the supervisor position, is more of a handling the day-to-day out at the shop, making sure the inventory is accounted for, the work orders are put in correctly. When we get a work order system, help set that up and track things like that.
So I kinda thought you were the superintendent. That's what I thought when we
I'm more than welcome to go out and do superintendent tasks, but I will not be in the office very much. I'll be out inspecting water lines.
If I recall correctly, we discussed this when we decided to go with a general manager and then to revisit the superintendent position at a later time, once we saw the need for it. If I'm wrong, please correct me.
You're right.
This is Jeff Brandon.
Jeff, speak into the mic. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Gwen. I said, if I'm not mistaken, we discussed this when we did hire Joseph and create the position of general manager versus a supervisor or superintendent position, that we would revisit this position down the road once the general manager got in and determined, if we determined we needed to replace that position as well.
I will say this, Joseph's done a preliminary study what it would take to bring our water system up to what it should be. Could be up to $100 million because things have been done over the years and done improperly or without. It's appalling when you get to understand what we're sitting on here that's been done poorly, and we either start doing it right or goodness knows where we're gonna be.
Okay. Any comments? These two positions will become working for the county, work back through to the county manager in the end, correct?
They will.
Mr. Chairman, I just have a comment, one more comment. I guess what I'm saying, thinking to myself, is that if we have a person who is leaving next month who is actually physically doing work, why aren't we looking to replace that person? Because obviously they were doing something. And then the second thing is that, maybe Steve can tell me, why is the water authority not using facility user in Spalding to work, do work orders, check work orders? Because I heard someone say that we don't have any way of documenting the work orders or tracking them. Is that not something that the water authority has access to?
Ms. Gwynn, they do have access to it, but it's an inferior product. It's no longer being maintained like it needs to be. In fact, we have been discussing over the last 2 months upgrades to the software systems across the county. TJ and all of the public works guys were in a meeting yesterday that I attended, talking specifically about another software package that actually handles not only the asset management, but the inventory management and the workflow across not only public works, but for the water and sewer authority as well. There's a lot of challenges with the software that we're currently using that will not support what the water authority's using, or sorry, what the Public Works Department is using currently in support of the water department. We have been working this issue for a considerable number of months, but the last two, we've been looking specifically at software packages in support of this issue.
Okay,
Well,
we've
I
got,
just kind of think that should be a small problem if we have the ability to implement something like that countywide and allow the water authority to be able to utilize it too, and to be able to utilize asset management. Is that a task that would some work requirements from a human? If we were able to get that software up and moving. Of course, I know that even if it's spotted, it would take months before it's even get it up.
Yes, ma'am.
okay, now, I wanna divvy this up into, there's positions that you've got that are leaving, that just normal replacement action. That's a different issue to me all the way around. You just need to backfill those positions as they go on. This is two additional positions to be added on to it, all right? And you're okay with, from the county manager's perspective, how this is gonna work?
If the board pushes forward, absolutely.
And with approval, you have no issue with them coming on board or anything else?
No, sir.
All right, I have, Ms. Colleen, do you have?
No, I was just saying, if with that in mind, I was just gonna call for a question. There's a motion on the floor, is there not?
Okay, yes, we have a motion on the floor. Any last minute discussion?
She called
She
for the
called for
question.
the question.
All those in favor signify by raising your hand. All those opposed? Ms. Quinn, are you opposing?
I am opposing.
All right. 2, 4, 6, 7 for, 1 against. Thank you. Motion
Thank
carried.
you.
All right. Item number 2, consider approval of the following amendments to current water legislation as recommended by the Bylaws Committee.
I'd like to make a motion that we table this until our next meeting.
All right, I have a motion to table. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, there's no discussion. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, motion to table carries. All right. Item number 3.
Mr. Chairman, this is what we've already agreed to in committee and in this board, and this has been written legally. So this has sort of been pre-approved. I move that we adopt the new fire hydrant funding policy as written.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this? All right, all those in favor signify by raising your hand. Ms. Quinn, are you saying yes? I'll assume so. All right, motion carries.
Yes.
Thank you. Great work by everybody to get this done. I know that it may not seem like it's a big deal, but this is in the end a big deal for getting done. Item number 3, consider approval to request the Board of Commissioners allow the general manager or a designated representative to revise the design and construction requirements on an as-needed basis.
Mr. Chairman, this comes about because our big book of design requirements is out of date, needs updated. And one of the problems, in my opinion, this authority has, it's been county-run, authority-run, county, it's been back and forth, and I think it's changed now that we're gonna be an authority and do our own professional work. So, if we have to go to the county commission every time we want to change a page in that design book and update a new valve requirement or whatever, it's unworkable. So we're asking the county board of commissioners to give us the authority to update our design manual as needed and let us do that work, and it becomes their policy by accepting our design book. That's what this is all about.
This is the 2006 design.
Yeah, that needs to be updated, but we don't think we should run back and forth to the county commission to get every new valve or line
Okay.
approved.
Unless you want to.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Chairman,
Yes, Ms. Williams.
I have a question. So why are we having to go back to the county to change our power?
because that's the way it was done, and under the current rules,
Okay,
the county commission approves our design manual, doesn't accept it. And so every change has to go to the county commission, and we're asking that we can change it and you accept our design manual as your official policy. So,
okay, let me ask Stephanie, why is that proof or is that just how, I mean, my understanding is that as an authority, we can change our policies and our requirements as we need to without having, I mean, nobody at the hospital authority is gonna make an ask the county if they can change their policy.
That's true. You
So
can.
why are we having to even do this?
Because these design standards are ordinances approved by the Board of Commissioners. I think the way that we need to handle it is probably by intergovernmental agreement, where the Board of Commissioners and this authority agree that our standards change, we don't have to have a new ordinance approved by the Board of Commissioners.
But how will it become a legal ordinance if it is not approved?
The ordinance,
Apparently, there's some reason why the county has to approve it in order to make it a law.
I think the reason is only because that's the way it's always been done. But we can,
But that doesn't make it right.
exactly.
So
I think an amendment to our ordinance to allow for, so that we're not setting out specifics. And I mean, I think if you look at some of our ordinances across the board, you'll see that we have the need to go back and make them more generic and less specific. And I think this is one of those situations. And then, so we would need to amend the ordinance to be more generic and also, I think, have that intergovernmental agreement in place that would allow our general manager in this authority to make those adjustments as needed.
The way I see it is the ordinance, the county ordinance ought to say that they accept the water authority's book, design the standard book as the county ordinance.
As amended from
As
time to
amended
time.
Time to time.
Yeah, and we do that with other things, fire,
We do.
national level things, we do the same thing. So yes, we're gonna have to do a number of actions here to be able to get this done right. The water authority will have to do the upgrade of that. And then in the meantime, we need to get ready to, change the ordinance to say we're accepting, just like we accept fire standards and all that electrical standards. We don't do all of those individually.
Which is perfect timing for us because we're in the starting phases of working with Muni Code to update our zoning ordinances. So this is in line with the direction that we're moving.
Okay, did I make a motion to approve this? Okay, I do move that we approve our request to the Board of Commissioners to allow us to do this as we've described.
All right, I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Is this basically
Yes,
in line
Mr.
with what
Chairman, so I
Stephanie
just want to
suggested?
understand what it is that the vote is, what the motion is. I heard, Dick say, as discussed, but because it started out being, we need to ask the county to allow us to make decisions without their approval. But in order for them to become code or ordinance, it has to be voted on by the county, and this is part of our development for it, because the county looks at what it is that we're saying needs to happen in the water authority in order to go along with their development, ordinances anyway. So what exactly is the motion again?
Okay, my recommendation, the motion is that the county modify their ordinance to accept our design manual as the county ordinance, as we make changes. Maybe it's better worded by you.
I think not, just add that you make that request of the Board of Commissioners.
Okay, we request the Board of Commissioners to amend their ordinance to accept our design standard book as the county standard.
Okay, do I have a second to that? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion on this? Now, this is a long process. We can change the ordinance, Board of Commissioners ordinance fairly quickly, but we can't change that ordinance until we get this.
No, you can
thing ready.
change the ordinance and we'll he's starting to update the book already because it's gonna take, and it never changes, you're always updating it, so we
Well,
just need the approval to,
Yeah, the 2000, I don't want to have the 2000 and us to change the, BOC to change the agree to change, to accept the standards and 2006 standards when we know that they're not ready. I want to make sure that ours, the
you won't-
authority.
well,
This
otherwise, we
actually
gotta,
will not, that's not what you'll be agreeing to. You'll be agreeing to as amended from time to time. Therefore, whether it's 2006 today, if it's 2023 tomorrow, that you've already accepted it.
see, he's already in the process of amending the book, but it has no legal authority as it is now,
Until it goes through you.
Until this is approved.
until this is approved.
Why not an intergovernmental agreement with the county saying they will ratify changes that we deem necessary to support the building and development code?
That gets to my question. Ms. Wyndham, what do you recommend that we do to handle this situation?
I think you need both. I think you need the amendment to the ordinance, and you also need an intergovernmental agreement that allows the general manager and this authority to
And that's my motion, and y'all can do
change
what
with
you
the
want. but
times.
If you want us to come every month with a new valve or new pipe, that's your business.
So your motion has to do with both the ordinance and the intergovernmental agreement, IGA.
Yes, to
And
allow
I'll
this to
second.
become the county's approved
Okay.
design standard.
All right, do we have that? We're all square with this? I'm looking for everybody. Okay.
Yes.
No,
All right, thank you.
Nobody's square with this one.
Any
I
more
got it
discussion
recorded,
points?
I'm gonna pass it.
All right, all those in favor signify by raising your hand. Ms. Quinn, are you okay with it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. 8-0, thank you. All right.
But man, I made one comment, so
Oh, man, we done moved on, come on now.
if you don't get around to approve this ordinance, he can't enforce it.
You can with an IGA.
Yes, all right. I think we're down to,
Monkey
other
business.
business. We all agree? Okay. Update from the general manager on the following. Go ahead, general manager.
So the outfall project, we turned over the as-built to the city on 5/19, and we are actively working with Stephanie to get the deeds transferred over into the city of Griffin's name so we can wipe that off our books. The biannual meeting date has been set for July 27th at 2 o'clock in this room. And I'm working with the city on getting an agenda to hand out to everybody beforehand to make sure there's nothing that you guys want to add. I can tell you what I've done is I'm building the agenda based on the contract and what is specified in the water sales agreement. So that's how I'm going through from our standpoint.
Everybody, please try to make the meeting. Although this is, if you made the last one, you know this isn't a whole bunch of stuff, but this is important. It's in the contract. Us sitting down with the city and saying, here, we said this was one of the requirements for us to sign the contract. Now we're at that time. So please mark your calendars for 27 July at 2 p.m. All right, thank you. Go ahead. And we'll all have an opportunity to work with the agenda. This isn't just us making it up. This is all of us looking and saying, okay, this is what we think needs to be done.
The City of Griffin Authority IGA, we're actively working through checking all the boxes off. The only thing we have outstanding is dealing with Dundee Lift Station. So the City of Griffin's actually transferred power for both stations into their name. The SCADA, Dundee SCADA will be turned over on the GRM system as of the 17th of June, and we're actively repairing pump number 2. So pump number 2 was determined in the preventative maintenance that they couldn't take it out to inspect it without possibly damaging the pump. They've now removed it. They gave us an itemized list of repairs that are needed. So the PO was issued this week, and they're actively working. Good thing is they only have 2 parts that have to be outsourced by the manufacturer, and supposedly they're in stock. So I'm hoping to have this IGA wrapped up within the next month or so.
Okay?
Mr. Chairman, Judge, that employee that was assigned that job, or where did they go?
That was outsourced to Paragon.
I'm sorry?
That was outsourced to Paragon.
Contract.
You're talking about the operator at the
Yeah, the operator.
sewer plant.
Oh, the operator at the sewer plant?
Yeah.
That is, we're developing him as we can on the water side. So he's been out with the water meter, so we're gonna redeploy him.
Okay.
But right now, we still have jobs at the city, or
Right.
at the plant, to pump out the wastewater and send it to the city of Griffin for treatment to get ready for decommissioning.
Okay.
Okay. All right, bullet number 4, request that Chairman Davis appoint a RFQ selection panel and affirm who will be the voting members and who will be advisors only.
Mr. Chairman, we talked about this at our planning meeting, and the consensus was that Cheryl and I, as chair, want to be on this, and I'd like to have the members of our planning committee, Wade and Ms. Delaney. You're not on the planning committee.
Oh, I can't be.
Wade has a
Oh,
conflict.
can't be
I
on
got
it,
a
that's what
conflict.
it is.
I can't be on
Ms.
this.
Delaney and any others we can get, like Jeff. We need several members to help read this, but we also, and that would be the voting members, I think, our opinion. We also would like to have Brent and Brandon and maybe David Lucky, some other folks read these also and give us their opinions, so we get sort of a broader opinion. So we'd like to have, like I say, Brandon and David Lucky. Maybe there's others out there that can help us. and members of this board to sit down and review these RFQs.
All right, so let's talk about the voting members. 4 voting members, Dick,
Yeah,
Cheryl,
Jeff had said he
Fanny,
would have
and
to
Jeff.
look into your conflict.
I'm good. I'm
Okay.
good. Yeah.
Okay, we'd like to have Jeff and
You 4 be the voting members, and then the rest of them non-voting, and you can get as many as you desire to be able to do that. I'm looking for, make sure everybody's okay with this.
yeah, if we can get some other, have the authority to get some others read them and give us their opinion.
Every time Dick comes up with something for the planning committee, he summarily leaves me off the committee.
Oh, I'm sorry, she's on it too, I'm sorry. I forgot,
Whether you want me to be on it or not.
I'm sorry.
He's sorry, yes. All right, so the 5 people that we're making sure of, Jeff, Dick, Miss Delaney, Miss Cheryl, and Gwen. And if you, let's just be real honest, if another member of the board moves into that, they become a voting member on the RFQ panel.
That's fine.
All right, so if you're a member here and you go and sit and listen, you become a voting member. That's all the voting members there are.
Right, and others would just be advisors,
Everybody else is non-voting, but can have input to be able to do that.
that'd be great. We could
All right.
get a good wide opinion.
Ms. Quinn, did you have a comment?
Now, what RFQ is this one for? Is
The,
this for,
the county sewer plan,
The sewer feasibility study.
sewer feasibility study, that's a better word to say it.
Okay, now, who chairs this? Is this
Whomever you
the general
appoint.
manager,
Whoever you appoint.
or is this a member from our board?
Whomever you've named.
And general manager and county manager, what's your thoughts on who that should be?
I will leave that to your
Okay.
great
All right,
wisdom.
Joseph, you're gonna be the chairman, whatever word, to lead this group.
And, by the way, I'd like him to be a voting member too.
Okay? How does everybody feel about that? I'm looking at, Jeff, you okay with that?
I'm good with that.
All right?
yeah, I don't think it's good for an employee of an organization to be voting member. That just lends itself to conflict of interest. I'm just saying, I don't know any other place where an employee
Well,
is a voting member on a committee or on a board.
I think he's the most qualified in the room, so, but,
Well, yeah, and I'm fine, and I'm just simply saying, he's there for his expertise.
I trust our general manager to vote, but I'm not,
All right, no question. You're in charge of it. She makes a good point of,
Conflict of
I'd
interest.
keep it at 5. Not talking about just anything, I would keep it 5, so you got an odd number.
Odd number.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it needs to be an odd
number.
number.
yeah,
That's for
5
sure.
people will be voting members, and you'll be in charge.
Can I get a clarification on everybody that is going to review the RFQ will be a scoring member?
yeah, they
But there's
score,
only
but they don't get to vote on the
Okay,
choice.
great, all right.
All right.
That, I just want to clarify that because I know that became a topic of conversation during the joint, water authority.
I think if they score, they can only be scoring for discussion purposes.
That's correct.
Because
Mhm.
if you're, if you're basing your vote on a score, then you're creating power in your
Well,
non-voting
if-
members.
If they don't score, we don't really know what they're thinking, and we need it for
They
discussion.
can give their comments and stuff like they did in the past.
All right.
So the way that I've got it, Ms. Cheryl, Mr. Dick, Ms. Fanny, Mr. Jeff, Ms. Gwen are voting members.
Yes.
Joseph is the chairman, so he's gonna wrangle everybody together and work through the details. And then all others who want to participate, such as Brant, Dr. Keller, David Lucky, they're non-voting members and they can offer an opinion back to the board for consideration.
That's correct, and their opinions based on their score, because that's what we need to look at.
Is that okay? I don't have a problem with them
I
scoring.
just think, make it clear that those scores are not
Binding.
in any way.
Yeah, no, okay, and Joseph, you've gotta make sure at the very beginning, everybody understands who's voting and who's not voting, so that there's no question about it.
Okay.
All right,
Who can
Brandon
score, who
Lewis.
cannot score?
question.
Let me rephrase that. Whose scores count and whose scores do not
The
count?
voting members, but we have
Only
to,
voting member scores
Score
count.
is an opinion.
Okay, do we base this strictly on scores, or do we look at scores and then vote?
Well, they use,
I think the
On a
committee will need to
recommendation.
make that decision
Okay.
when you meet.
you use the scores to narrow down the field of candidates.
Right.
Discretion.
Is what you
I
use.
just wanted to make a clarification as to whether or not we're going strictly on scores, or if scores are going to be used and then a vote.
well, the last one of these we did did all the scoring, but then we end up not picking the leading scorer after our
Right.
discussion, so scoring just narrows the field.
That committee figures that out, comes back to
There
a
you go. Thank you.
recommendation to the board on, what we're doing.
And when do you expect these in, what's the up?
So today at 2:00 is
Today
when
at
all
2
of them are
o'clock.
submitted.
So you gotta set up a schedule as soon as possible for the meeting, because this is gonna be, okay, all right?
We need to start reading.
Yes. All right, does everybody, do you have what you need for the RFQ selection?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay? All right, we've already done 12. We'll move on forward on what's next after that.
Well, next meeting, I think.
Scheduled meeting.
Okay, next meeting is there. I was looking at my stand. Okay, let's do,
Next meeting is July the 20th at 8:30 in this room.
okay, all right, let's go around and do county secretary, treasurer, real comments.
Yeah, I don't have any comments this morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, authority members, Ms. Cheryl,
No additional, thank you.
all right, Ms. Fanny,
None additional, thank you.
Dick,
Having heard some of the issues that Joseph has found, some of them are non-public for good reason. I'm so glad that we're moving ahead with some professional help, because I agree with him that we have some huge liabilities that are lying out there. So I feel confident we're gonna start whittling those liabilities down.
all right,
Thank you.
yeah,
No comments other than I will not be in attendance at the next meeting.
okay, thank you. Jim? All right. Micah, there's a number of big things that are happening here, and sometimes we don't really get the feel for as we fight through our way. The decision to get 2 more engineers basically on the thing is a big decision that we're making, fire hydrant.
I keep hearing engineers, so these 2 positions are not engineering positions, are they?
No, they're
Not
not
necessarily.
specifically engineers. They are expected to have some technical background, which can be facilitated through a engineering program, but we're not requiring them to be
Yeah,
engineers.
excuse me, not PEs or anything like that, but yes. These are big issues as we get ready to go. Excuse me, Ms. Gwynn, I didn't ask you for your comments.
Yep.
It's probably a good thing, cause I was, it's probably a good thing, cause I was thinking something bad, but, yeah, my comment is that, first of all, should we table the amendment for compensation?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so, all I'm gonna say is that Joseph, I will be, I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to meet with you, had a whole bunch of stuff going on the last 2 weeks. But I will be asking for questions, because for me, the numbers will justify all of this. And my impression, based on the job description, was that these were jobs for engineering. The second question is, have we gone and had a salary study done for this? Because I don't know that in the past, the county or the water authority or anybody has actually hired an on-staff engineer. So what does that job description look like? What are they getting paid in the market? Are we paying market pay? Are we paying government pay? So, and I say that because if they're not engineers, then I don't want them coming in at a salary that's not comparable to what everybody else is making around them.
I
So,
think
I
that,
mean, I'm not real sure how that's gonna work out, but that's what I'm.
Ms. Gwynn, I think we have the job description and the salary range. It was in the packet. If you didn't get it, we can get you another copy.
You know, but
She didn't read.
I have that, I'm saying.
It's
where do we
approved,
get
though.
it?
He went through HR.
Process with the county
Yes, ma'am. Miles was completely involved in all aspects of this, and we did all of those tasks that you just indicated.
And that salary range was $75,000 to $160,000?
No.
No, ma'am.
One was 55 to 65, one was 65 to 75.
And those salary ranges were already approved, correct? As part of the,
The total for the 2 employees was that salary range, not each individual.
Okay, I missed that, it was breaking up. Okay, thank you, I got it.
Okay, so,
So does that sound, so what will we do? Okay. Because salary's not gonna be the benefit, so we need to know the full, but it's gonna, I mean, it's already loaded into the,
Full package?
we need to know, you know, what the real number is that the water authority is gonna pay for that salary, that position, those positions.
Only 200 grand.
the secretary treasurer will take care of that number.
Yep, I got that, Ms. Gwynn.
Also known as our county manager, and get that
Thank
number.
you,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
We're making great headway, you all, we may stumble and fumble along, but the steps are being made to make us a different organization than we were, few years ago. So thank you for that. It is, diversity of thought is important to me, if I haven't said it lately. I foster people having a different way of looking at the same issue, and I appreciate if you please don't ever get, thinking that Clay only wants one way. I like everybody to have an opportunity to talk. That's why periodically you'll see me just turn around and almost direct somebody to give me their opinion, because I want them in the conversation. All right, with all of that, if there's no other business, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by raising your hand. All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, after sitting, I gotta stand up now.
Well done, Joseph.
Just because you don't have office,
Oh,
He looks a little beat
I only
down.
have that in my hand.
office,